Also, I'm making this in less than a day. This is false. She did not finish it in a day. It took considerably longer than that. So here's what happened. So you've probably seen this dress all over Pinterest, like me, and I just thought, you know what, I think I'm gonna make that. Instead of making it for this price, I decided to make it for this. I decided to make an inspired version for myself, and then in this video I'm going to show you how. Right, so first things first, we're going to measure the length of where I want it to be. You can use seam allowance. You can use centimeters or inches. I'm in the UK, so I'm using centimeters. So I'm going to do 69 centimeters. Now you're going to do all the body measurements. If you want full details on the body measurements, please download my full body measurement PDF that will help you with most body measurements that you're going to need. For this tutorial, you're going to need the neck width, shoulder, bust, under bust, waist and hips, and the neck down measurements if you want the length and whatever you want the length of the dress to be. Here's me just doing it now, but again, download the PDF, it'd be really helpful, and unlike me, you don't have to write it down every single time. You will have a record right there for you for any tutorials you want to do in the future. So we're just going to draw a straight line to represent the length. This is what you're going to base all your measurements from. For the pattern, you're going to draw down the center front of the dress first, and then you're going to make sure that you're going to put in where the bust is, the neck, the under bust, waist and hips, and make it the full length of the dress. Then you're going to quarter the measurement, and you're going to what we call square out. So you're going to divide all your measurements by 4, because obviously there are 4 sides, because you're only going to do a front half and a back half, but the whole measurement, the circumference of your body is going to be by 4, so you're going to do it that. For the neck curve, you're going to draw up and across 6.35 centimeters. For the neck point, you're going to measure along the shoulder width and down 1.3 centimeters. At the center front, you're going to measure up 10 centimeters from the bust and then out 14, so you don't end up, flashing anybody, showing a little bit of nip. And you're going to draw a straight diagonal line and then a curve to represent the front armholes. Then you're going to join all the points together, so from the bust, the waist, the hips, down to the hem, and you're going to curve in at the waist, because we aren't angular at the waist, we're going to curve it in slightly. Then you're going to add in a seam allowance. You're going to add 1 centimeter or whatever seam allowance you're comfortable with all the way around, except for the center front, as this is going to be cut on the fold. To make the back, I just pasted, taped on the front onto another piece of pattern paper, obviously put on the waist, hips, bust or whatever, and then I just changed the back neck slightly, but essentially everything else was going to be the same, so it didn't really matter. And then I used this tool, and I can't remember this is the tracing wheel here, but the other tool, I can't quite remember what the name is, but I used a tracing wheel that will help me to trace all the way around without the seam allowance, and then to make sure that everything matches up, but there's only slight changes at the back. For the back neck, it's actually 2 centimeters higher than the center front neck, so you just write 2 centimeters and then you make sure everything else matches up, because they're going to join anyway. And then make sure that at this center back that you put a seam allowance, 1 centimeter, whatever you're comfortable with, because that's where the zipper is going to go. For the collar, I measured the front and back necklines as well as the height that you want the collar to be. I made this as full, but you can make it half and then put a 1 centimeter or whatever seam allowance you want, and then create it so it's cut on the fold. So what I'm gonna do is, well, I made a toile, however, this don't fit because I wanted to, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna buy a longer zip. The zip stops here, which isn't at the waist, whereas the waist is about, well, this blue line, this here, which there's a reason for this blue line, but I'll show you in a moment. This is too small, so I can't step into it the way I want because it won't get past here. You see, I just went, which is what I want technically, so that's gonna get changed. And then if I put it on, it just isn't working. After literally having to cut myself out of the dress, so this is where the waistband was, and this is where I'm gonna open it up to, because I felt like it was pulling in the back. I hope that makes sense. We're gonna find out if this works. I don't know. At the armhole point and the bust point, no, the waistline, I actually added in a princess seam as well as a dart, which is going to help with the shaping. Seeing as we're not using stretch and I'm using organza, which is woven, I'm going to show you here how I did that on like a smaller scale. So what I did at the waist, I did like 2 centimeters, so it gives me a little bit of shape, and then at the princess dart, I put in another 2 centimeters and then make sure it went through all the way through the middle, all the way down to the bottom. And then that would mean that I've got 2 pieces, well, 4 pieces in total for the front, 4 pieces for the back. And this just helps with shaping, like as you can see that I've done here. So here you can see I'm drawing around the original pattern, making sure that I put in the princess seam as well as the dart that I put in at the waist. I put that around 2 centimeters, but I wanted to make sure that this shape was moved up higher than it needed to, so it wasn't pulling so much on the back. For this, I recommend doing this method if you're going to put in a princess seam. Obviously you don't have to if you don't want to, and then I'm just cutting everything out. Initially when pressing this I used calico, but you don't actually need to do that. Make sure you correctly match all the pieces together. And then what I decided to do was to baste it, essentially use a contrasting color thread, and so I just wanted to double check that it would fit me okay, just by doing a running stitch just with my hands. You can do that, you can skip this point, you don't have to do this, it's not mandatory. So I've put it on, as you can see here. This is like, I've only basted it, put it on, and I'm thinking this is still isn't sitting in right. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna have to take off of the princess seam on both sides, take it down a little bit. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I'm gonna have to do French seam, which is 2 stitches rather than 1. I'll show you how to do it, but I think it's just better that I know now what to do rather than think about it later. But I'm not going to do the whole thing. I could do this whole thing and then put it on. And to make sure I press it though, because it's quite bubbly. But yeah. After the fit, I decided that I wanted to make the seams a bit smaller, especially around the princess seam. So I wanted to flatten it out first to make sure that it looks okay. And then I did it around 2 centimeters. Just brought it in a little bit. And then make sure it had that curve that it had before, and I think from that it fits a lot better. I want to see if this is the right needle and thread for this. Right stitching, right setting, everything. Oh yeah, oh no, that's good. Yeah, so you can see it on here how it's okay. Right, okay. Wrong sides together, you sew 3mm, which is about the little hole bit in my regular sewing foot, all the way down to the bottom. and then you sew it to one side, because then what you're going to do is to sew the right sides together. Basically, you are enclosing the raw edge. I didn't want to put a overlocker stitch in there. I thought it'd look a lot neater. It would look, even though you're not really going to see it underneath all the flowers, but I just thought this just looks so much better than the alternative of just overlocking everything. It does take a little bit longer, and you don't have to do this, but I just thought, me being extra, I would do this bit. I think people do get a bit caught up when it comes to sewing, that we think that it should be perfect, and I've definitely been in that perfection spiral. And then I show somebody what I've made, and they're like, "Oh, what? You made that? That's amazing!" And I'm like, "No, like this is wrong with it. This is wrong with it. This is wrong with it." Like, nah. You had an idea, or you found a pattern, or whatever in your head, and you made it. And not only did you make it, you're able to wear it. Like, that is the most amazing thing, and the reason why I love this hobby. I can think of something, I can see something, and I can be like, yeah, it needs this, this, and this, and then I can make it. And then maybe as egotistical as it sounds, but when you get to say the words, "I made this," like, honestly, it's the best thing. It's absolutely the best thing. So this is what it should look like on the right side, and then I used a tailor's ham because I'm pressing out the curve. I didn't want it to be straight because obviously it's supposed to be curved. You don't have to get this, you can get a rolled up towel to sew that bit, to press that bit even, and then I'm just sewing the next bit. So again, using the basic stitch to help me to sew those bits together. So for here, what I do is kind of pull and make this as straight as possible, because these two technically shouldn't be able to match. You kind of pull this, and then you kind of curve it around. It does take a while. It does take a little bit of practice. But I'm gonna show you here maybe like a better version of how to do this, so it's clearer, because obviously I'm sewing it with like 2 pieces of very see-through fabric. So we've got the front and the back pieces that I'm going to now sew together. For these, this is the... So it's just like before when I'm doing wrong sides together. So I'm doing French seam on all the sides, except for the centre back, of course, where I put the zip. We have to find the wrong sides together. Which are these? Sew down. You'll see what I mean. And I'm going to do that to both sides, and then make sure I press as I go along. 'Cause I knew you were trouble when you walked in. It's a shame on me now to me to places I've never been. The lonely girl, I knew you were trouble when you walked in. To cover up the armholes, I made bias binding at a 45-degree angle. So I only made it like 2.5 centimeter width, which is the width of the tool that I've got right here. Made it at a point, you push it through, and then it should fold on itself, and then you use an iron to make sure that the folds stay in place, and then you will fold again to make sure that's the bit that you are going to put around the armhole. I put it around the armholes and the hem. So you don't have to, again, do overlock. You just sew that on right there. Working on the collar, I sewed the 1 centimeter seam allowances in on themselves, and then just sewn it all the way around the front and the back collar. What I like about this though is that because this is getting covered up with flowers, I don't have to be perfect. And I do have a very big like perfectionism issue going on. So with this, I'm glad I can cover shit up. If it doesn't go quite the way that I want it to look, I do, and it is something you can get caught in when you like do sewing. that you want things to look perfect, but sometimes imperfections are what make the outfit, you know, they're 100% yours, because they aren't perfect, and you can see like maybe the little faults or where you've got like a little notch, but as long as it like looks mostly the way that you want, and you know, it's the time that you spend with it, because I love this. This is something I could do every day for the rest of my life, so I enjoy the making. I mean, when I went to college and you could decide between the drawing and the making, I just thought, let me do the making, because for me, the making was, you know, the creation of the outfit rather than drawing. And also, I was never really good at drawing. Drawing was never my strong point, so I just thought, hey, let me just do the making, and I have never looked back. You never really know with sewing projects how they're going to turn out. So the plan is I'm using this invisible thread, and I'm going to just sew all over the flowers. And this is why I didn't even do it timed per se, even though I am on a time limit myself, because obviously these videos need to come out at a certain time, a certain day. But yeah, this is going to take a while, and you just never really know. You can put a lot of work into sewing tutorials, and then it just doesn't turn out quite right. I was getting a bit scared when it came to putting the flowers on, and I guess I didn't realize I needed to put on the base flowers on first and then put this on top. So let's do this. To make sure I don't break any of the pins or anything either, and to kind of follow where I've pinned them to go naturally. Definitely worried about pricking. Ooh, see, definitely worried about pricking myself whilst I do this. We'll see how this goes. Ooh. Hey, how are you? Sewing on the flowers took me hours. I didn't realize how long it would take me to sew on all these flowers. I have so much footage that I'm not even going to show you, because it's just going to make the video longer than it needs to be. But it took a really long time. And on the original video of the artisans making the dress, they sewn it by hand, and I don't even know how many they had, but it took me such a long time. But I mean, for the end result, I think it was worth it. So far, actually kind of liking the way it's coming out. I know I will need, like, some bits are going to be tighter than others, and I will need to be a bit careful, and maybe I need to pull some stuff out. But actually, I don't hate it. Oh, I need to do down here a little bit, but I'm trying to do like top to bottom kind of thing. It is currently PM. So yeah, I want to see how much longer I can do this. So this has been like flipped whilst I was sewing it, so I'm just going to take that to make it go, because then it goes around the neck. You know what I mean? Yeah. Here I'm overlocking the centre back to prep it for the invisible zip. I decided to do this instead of any other method because I thought this was the easiest. Then this is me putting in the zip. If you want to know more about me sewing in an invisible zip, I have great videos on that, and I'll be making a dedicated separate video for this in the future, so keep posted. Using the zipper foot, I zipped, it gets very close to the zipper teeth as the invisible zip is, and then this is me comparing both sides to make sure that I've sewn this side. I need to sew it on its back, I suppose, on the opposite side, and to make sure that this sews in so it works as well. So now I've got to just trim off the hem, if you can see here. I'm not completely for a little bit. Yeah, it's fraying, so I'm gonna cut that off. I've measured it all the way around. It's about 105 centimeters, but I'll make it around like 107 just to give me a little bit more. Again, using the bias binding tool for the hem of the dress because I didn't want to put too much overlocking in there, and I thought it would look a lot neater and nicer if I just finished it off where I've done like the armholes and everything. I pinned it on first whilst on the mannequin, and then I basted it with just a needle and thread, so I make sure I keep it in place, and then try to sew it as close to the edge as possible. Some of the flowers got in the way, but that was fine. And then to finish it off, I took out the basting stitches. Then I closed the center back with just a straight stitch. I didn't do it at the 1 centimeter seam allowance because as well as I did the sides, this was still a bit tight. So I just did it as close to the overlocking, and this is it. I really like this dress, I do, and it's definitely something I'm gonna wear. Not 100% sure where I'm gonna wear it exactly. I do have an event coming up, so if I do wear it, then I'll definitely put that on social media. But thank you so much for watching this. Please like, comment and subscribe, and please watch the next video coming up. You probably can learn some great skills from my channel. Maybe that. Okay. I think I made this a bit tight. I mean, I love it, but it's a bit, that's it. I guess I can't. What else was we supposed to say? That's all I'm supposed to say, huh?